Greetings, metalheads, and welcome back to another analysis of metal lyrics. My choice for today comes also from Cradle of Filth's 1996 album Dusk in Her Embrace, because it's one of my favorites and one of your favorites as well, according to your comments, namely Haunted Shores, centered around the legend of King Arthur. And this song is also perhaps Cradle of Filth's most overt version of romantic nationalism, which we are going to talk a bit about before delving into the song itself. The period of Romanticism saw a strengthening of national conscience and cultural identity manifested in both Europe and America in the socio-political aspect through a series of revolutions in the 18th and 19th century, starting with the American and the French revolutions, and in the cultural aspect on an emphasis on patriotism and common historical tradition. This idea arose, proposed mostly by Germanic thinkers, that nations should be built around the traditions and myths of the past, and that the preservation of folklore is at the core of a nation. Many 19th century British historians were interested particularly in the early Middle Ages in order to determine what Britishness means, to identify in their Anglo-Saxon and Germanic past those unique qualities of the English people that would explain their character and self-perception and also legitimize their political and colonial structures. While it was later taken to the extreme by certain political movements also in line with this new Germanic Renaissance, during the period of Romanticism in the 19th century especially, it generally meant a growing interest in medieval and ancient history, folklore, traditions, and an appreciation of nature as an expression of purity and the immutable. And we can see all that inspiration from history, myth, and folklore among English Romanticists. We get poets like William Blake and his so-called prophetic books like Visions of the Daughters of Albion, John Keats and his La Belle Dame sans Merci, and his general longing for antiquity, Shelley's Queen Mab, Coleridge's Kublai Khan, Walter Scott's numerous novels and narrative poems like Ivanhoe and The Lady of the Lake. And now Danny Filth, our favorite neo-romanticist, which leads us to Haunted Shores. The song is centered around what is perhaps the most famous English legend, widely popular from at least the 12th century, the legend of King Arthur, in the first person with Danny impersonating King Arthur. While the real historical existence of King Arthur is very much debated, the idea of King Arthur is very real. It has been a part of literature, of the perceptions of the past, and of group and national identity, of historical and ideological discourse, and of popular culture for at least 11 centuries. He first appears in a 9th century text, the Historia Britonum, History of the Britons. The legend of King Arthur is convoluted and heavily shrouded in mystery. He is mentioned in medieval poems, chronicles, chivalric romance from the 9th century onward, in mostly Welsh, English, French, and Italian texts, gaining tremendous popularity in the high medieval Romance tradition, which links him to the pursuit of the Grail and the Knights of the Round Table series of tales. So we mostly imagine him as a 12th century king due to this latter tradition, though he supposedly lived in 6th century Britain, the early Anglo-Saxon period. So now let's listen to the song and hear Cradle of Filth's version of the legend. So the song begins with a glorious image of the Wild Hunt, a phantom cavalcade in Germanic and Celtic legends. Although our most familiar image of the Wild Hunt, led by Odin or Wotan, Siegfried and Brunhilde, comes from Jakob Grimm, there are many other and older versions and legends. It appears described as any host of dead people, from pagan heroes, dead monks, sinful knights, Christians martyred by Muslims, good women coming to bless the household, or a cult of witches on their wild ride during the Sabbath. And this latter one is how the Wild Hunt was associated in the early modern period with witch trials. One of the female leaders of the hunt is called by medieval clerics Herodias. Herodias is a reference to the biblical Queen of Galilee, wife of King Herod, who allegedly orchestrated the gruesome death of John the Baptist at the hands of her daughter Salome. No wonder she is portrayed by the church as a wicked woman who leads the dead across the night sky and corrupts Christians. Herodias may also be the Christian name given to some now lost pagan female Celtic deity, and in the context of Cradle of Filth, this makes a lot of sense. The speaker of the song establishes himself and the other leader of this ghostly procession, Herodias, and describes himself as a pagan hero who fights against Christendom, which tries to bury England's glorious pagan past. And when the artifacts Grail and Caliban are mentioned, it becomes very clear which hero he is. Caliban is an older name, probably of Welsh origins, for Excalibur, King Arthur's legendary sword. But the Grail is a holy relic, much more mysterious than the sword, in that while it is linked with the Arthurian legends and the Knights of the Round Table go looking for it, it is never clear what the Grail actually is. In the medieval text, it is a recipient for communion bread. It is the chalice of the Last Supper. It is the vessel used to collect Christ's blood upon the cross. It is the philosopher's stone sought by alchemists, and in the 19th century it is theorized to be simply the knowledge that the Templars were after. In the song, these magical items are acquired by King Arthur as votive offerings, meant to secure the supremacy of England. The kingdom that possesses the artifacts becomes a great power. Romantic nationalism is strong in this song. We even have the stated purpose of making England great again, seeing it re-arisen in all its former glory. So this is a summary of King Arthur's life. He is born to the legendary king of the Britons, Uther Pendragon. He becomes a brave and very ambitious ruler, a warrior aided by pagan sorcery because he has the favor of the Black Goddess. And I discussed more about Cradle of Filth's recurring theme of the pagan goddess, who is the male speaker's protector and lover and appears as an antithesis to God. I talked about it most in depth in my breakdown of the Black Goddess Rises song. Similar to the kings from antiquity to early modern times, who, in order to legitimize their rule, trace their bloodline to gods, or in Christian times, trace their authority from God directly, the so-called divine right of kings. King Arthur here boasts having the favor of this dark goddess, sharing his rule with her. In this context, however, the dark goddess, who in other Cradle of Filth songs appears to be Artemis, Diana, Hecate, Astarte, Bastet, Here she appears to be, in British tradition, a fae, but even this divine favor cannot shield him from treachery, a wingless beast. So he is killed during the Battle of Camlan by Mordred, his nephew, or as it appears in later medieval texts, his son, a result of unwitting incest, who betrays Arthur to seize the crown but is also killed by him during an epic confrontation. So like in Bathory aria with Elizabeth, here we have an end-of-life summary of Arthur's existence, followed by the retelling of his last moments. Here Arthur is mortally wounded and knows he will succumb to death like autumn leaves to frost. And he wonders what will happen to his legacy, his beloved Camelot. Augean has the meaning of something corrupt or destructive, so he fears the ruin of his city. And his triumphs now seem bittersweet. So he invokes Morgana, Morgan Le Fay, the Fay Queen and Enchantress, who is portrayed as Arthur's enemy for the most part, but at the end of his life, they reconcile and she takes Arthur to her enchanted Isle of Avalon, where he is healed with her powers and kept to reside. So his last thought goes to Morgan. He also takes care to hide his sword Excalibur by giving it back to the Lady of the Lake, who in some versions of the legend supposedly offered him the sword in the first place, as opposed to the versions where he pulls it out of the stone. So Arthur cannot escape death, not even by the aid or the tears of his fey mistress. So he is off to the island of Avalon, which is haunted by the song of banshees and by those who have passed from earthly existence, where he lives in his fey mistress's company, but far from his earthly kingdom.
First, the cowardly tailors of my fate unleash my slips of snarling night to overthrow plague and burn. As slumber lures me amongst the dead, scheme of my reign.
So Arthur is magically put to sleep, buried in velvet dream. But though he should have healed and be at peace in Avalon, he is still bitter at his fate, which he considers to have been unjust, designed by cowardly tailors. So he goes into his sleep plotting his eventual return. And I like this atmospheric part with all the bestial growls that we can hear in the background. I guess the mastiffs are snarling night. The wolves are dead in Albion, whilst the passive flocks roam free. This is a beautiful image of romantic nationalism. Exactly this idea that the medieval and ancient glory of Britain has been washed out and lost to time, illustrating Arthur's lament that its strength has diminished. Its wolves have become sheep, and we need someone to restore the power of that golden age. Flocks of sheep is, of course, a reference to Christianity, and the wolves versus sheep antithesis shows an anti-Christian sentiment, a reference to how the Anglo-Saxon warriors, the berserkers of old, have been made submissive by the church. Albion is an ancient and poetic name for Great Britain, which wasn't very much used until Romantic poets, mainly William Blake, who wrote this whole mythology of the founding of Britain, with Albion being the giant who founded it and is an embodiment of Britain and of the Western man. So the use of the name here is very appropriate in this context. Arthur's sword is his willpower, forged over centuries of regaining his strength in Avalon, and he will return with renewed forces. And now on to my, and I guess everyone's favorite part. Let's now listen to the brilliant speech in the awesome voice of Kronos of Venom, who are, of course, one of the pioneers of black metal, also from England, so it's only appropriate that he is joining Danny in this call for the reawakening of England. So this speech will be showing Arthur in the present day upon his awakening from his long sleep. Sorry, I had forgotten about that part, but now here comes the speech.
I have awoken from the past, lengthening the shadows over England's bitter scars. I prize wine the wounds her soil's wetted drink. Remember me as king when I cradle elder stars. Like lovers in my arms, nestled vipers to my breast. Venom forces work these cards of devils and priestess. Thus I shall rule anew through sinews of a song, played upon the storm by the ghosts of Avalon. And all in league will bow to me, from death they shall ascend. To whisper wings of war to stir the dark ones sing in bed. The principal black metal master plan.
What an epic and triumphant awakening, the perfect conclusion to this song. So Arthur's arrival covers England's sky with clouds, and we can hear the storm clouds gathering and the thunders in the background, and this really nice addition to the atmosphere of the song. So he is his return is menacing for the enemies of his land. His deep primordial connection to the earth is shown in the image of his wounds filled with sweated soil. His scars are a mark of his trials and efforts for the prosperity of his kingdom. He has faced corruption and betrayal and all manner of adversity, but he has come on top of it. And Arthur is absorbed into the land's very essence, and he will cradle hell to stars, which reminds us of Lucifer in Tearing the Veil from Grace, who wants to bring back what once was lost. And the dark that he wants to stir once more in man, in the context of the song, of course, refers to the pagan beliefs and the warrior spirit which has come to be shunned after centuries of Christianity. But this is also in true black metal fashion, this being the black metal master plan, like Kronos tells us. And these guys would know all about it, which provides once more a really, really nice link between this theme of romantic nationalism and its continuation from the Romantic period into black metal. So this was my analysis, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like it and subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for my next analysis of metal lyrics. See you next time.